Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the How Did You Learn to Do That podcast. Thank you so much for all the love and the support over the last week since we launched our first podcast, and for coming back today to tune into our second episode. I'm looking forward to having you join us weekly as we release new episodes every Monday. Please help us grow by sharing our podcast to your family, to your friends, to your communities, for subscribing to us on YouTube and on Spotify, and for liking and sharing us on all our social media accounts. I hope the stories that we share help you to explore and set you on your journey to find your purpose in life. Today, we will be talking about how to start on your journey to finding your purpose in life with journaling. And we will have our very first guest on today, but we'll get to that in just a moment. Just before we get started, I wanted to talk a little bit about what is journaling and what are the benefits and how can it serve you in your purpose in life. Journaling is a written record of your thoughts, your feelings, and your experiences in a moment of time. It is a tool that helps you reflect and dig deeper in any aspect of your life. Journaling is a way to connect deeper with yourself, which is the most critical step to determining what your purpose in life is in setting you on that journey. But I would like to send a warning, just to be aware of. Journaling is hard work. You will have to relive some of the feelings, the thoughts, the experiences of events or moments in your life that were not so great. But it is so important to work through those feelings, those thoughts and experiences in order to fully heal from those traumas and move forward in understanding what your purpose in life is. I do have a journaling tool that is available on my website at howdidyoulerntodoThat.com. And when you sign up for a newsletter, you get free access to that tool, which has some tips and some tricks, as well as some advice on how to get started with journaling. There's also information about different types of journaling that might serve you differently at different times of your life, as well as a lot of information on our blog post to accompany this website, and the link to our podcast will be there as well. Okay, so we will be having authentic conversations with our guests so that you can truly feel the love and passion behind what they do and where they are in their journey to achieving their purpose in life. I'd like to introduce Jackie Kawaauhau. So Jackie is a wife and a mother of 2 boys. She's the owner of Aloha Kai Apparel, which is a brand inspired by Hawaii. She also helps run her family custom home building business. She has been on a self-improvement journey for many years, but only consciously decided to look inward just over 2 years ago. And that's when magic started happening and her life transformed. Thank you, Jackie, for joining me today, and I sincerely appreciate it.
Gosh, thank you so much for having me. This is my first podcast, so I'm so excited, and it's such an honor to be part of this. Thank you.
You're welcome, and we're happy to have you here and hear your story. So I've been following Jackie for the last about 16 to 17 months since my daughter was born, and she inspires me so much to the point that I'm almost willing and still trying to get up at 5 a.m. to meditate and journal. And any of you that truly know me, you know that 5 a.m. has never existed in my life before. And so we're so excited to have you here and share how you inspire me and how you inspire everyone that follows you. So let's start with, what does journaling mean to you and how did you get started?
Journaling is really a big part of my morning routine, and I got started actually when I started my journey inward over 2 years ago. I started to Google ways that I could connect better with myself. So that included meditation, that included crystals, oracle cards. Journaling was part of that as well. So I started watching some YouTube videos. I started reading up on it. And that's how I started because, I was really unsure how to get started with journaling and other parts of, being more spiritual and connecting with myself. So Google is an amazing tool because there's so many knowledgeable people out there and so many people that are sharing their knowledge through podcasts, through books. And it's a good place to start. And that is how I started. And for me, it's part of my morning routine. Like you mentioned, I wake up at about 5:15. Pretty much most mornings. I also do listen to my body, because if I'm exhausted or I sleep very late, I'm not going to force myself to get up, because, that's not how I want to start my day as well. But, with starting early, you really do need to sleep early. I think that that's the biggest part, because a lot of people will just say, okay, I'm just going to start waking up early. But if you don't sleep early, it's very difficult to get up early. And, it's baby steps. With everything that I've done in my spiritual journey, it's baby steps. So, I'll wake up a little bit earlier every day, and I'll start setting my alarm early and earlier when I get used to that time that I've adjusted to. And, journaling ties into that, because it allows me to tap into connecting with my spirit guides and my angel guides. And, when I'm able to be aligned and tap into, my spirit homies, I like to call them, then it allows me to be, to do the things that I want to do, and to be the way that, is aligned with my being, really.
Yeah, and that's a good point. That's my issue, is when 11 p.m. hits, that's when I get started. So that's why I'm not having much luck getting up at 5 a.m. because I get started at 11 o'clock.
Yes, and I yesterday went to sleep at just before 8, which is really, really early. And we go to sleep when the kids go to sleep, my husband and I, both of us actually, just because we're early birds. For me, I get more tired as the evening goes on, and I'm more productive in the morning. So that's when my mind is most clear. And when my mind is clear is when I'm able to get, the messages that I need to get. And that's why I also journal, because, when those messages come up, I will start writing. I'll write about whatever pops into my mind. It could be a thought, it could be an idea, it could just be something that pops into my head. I'm like, oh, I need to work on that, and I'll write it down. So that's part of my routine as well.
Yeah, I need to get up earlier, because the few times that I did feel much clearer, and I felt much more in tune and less distracted, I guess, because I just looked outside and it just seems like everybody's sleeping or moving about their day or just getting started. And so I felt more at peace, and I was able to get deeper. Whereas after 11 o'clock, I just, I'm doing mindless things that I'm not as clear, or as I'm tired. I should go to sleep, but because that's just what I've been doing forever, it's just continues to happen. So I need to change that habit. And I hope with going back to work, it'll help a bit as well.
Yeah, and with kids, that's the time that I'm able to carve out where I don't have the kids looking for me. Nobody's expecting me to email them back or answer any Instagram or any sort of messaging. So it's a really nice time to be off my phone. It's a really nice time to just do whatever that I want to do. And it's really, for me, like a set routine that I need to do every morning to align myself. So my day ends up going wonderfully. And, if things come up, which things always come up, it's just life, I'm able to pivot faster and bounce back quicker.
Yeah, that's amazing. That inspires me more to get up now. Earlier, I'm going to do it, but I just need to first learn how to get to bed earlier.
Yeah, and that's the whole thing, going to bed earlier. And, for me, once I started to do it and I saw it started to feel so much better, it became really, I just couldn't go without. I had to continue to wake up early, because, on the days where I let myself sleep in, and sleeping in for me is like 7 o'clock, just because, we have kids and I wake up usually quite early. It is a little bit more challenging for me. I still want to carve out time during the day to either meditate or go outside and do a little bit of yoga, just to clear my head, and then allow myself to still do the journaling. So then, but I'm still trying to carve out time while the kids are around, right? So I have to talk to my husband and be like, hey, Puna, can you watch the kids? I just need like 15 minutes. And the beautiful thing about, this whole journey for me is that my husband has seen the changes in me, that he's really supported me. And he's, it was funny when I first started and, he saw the changes. He was like, you haven't gone to that hole that you visit, like when things get tough. Because what I used to do is I used to go in a hole. I used to not want to do anything. I used to just want to be by myself, and just be in my own space and not do anything at all, because too many things were going on around me. And I didn't know I had that hole. I wasn't aware of that hole, but when Puna told me, he's like, you haven't gone to that hole in a while. And it clicked. I'm like, yeah, it's because of my morning routine and me being able to align every day. It's
Mhm.
made a huge difference mentally, especially because, I've been able to have that time and, carving out that time to do your meditation, to do your journaling, to really do anything that you feel you want to do in the mornings, was a total game changer for me. Huge game changer.
Yeah, and that's a good point because when I also got started, my husband was the one that also pointed it out to me because we actually I got started when my daughter just before my daughter was born because I started to look at, my family, my mom, my grandma, the people that I was learning from, and I realized that whenever things got tough, they just kind of like shut down, cut out ties with the person they were upset with or the thing they were upset with, and they just said I need to just be alone, and they would just be okay with that for so long. And so I realized that that was what I was doing too. When I was really upset with someone, I would just say, okay, I don't need them in my life, and out they go. And then I started realizing, that I don't want my daughter to learn that, and I don't want to
Mhm.
pass that cycle of thought of how to cope with difficult situations to her. And so doing a lot of the inner work, and my husband actually said to me, he's a friend of mine who I was upset with when I first had my daughter. He's like, oh, you didn't cut her out. And I said, no, because I actually took the time to think and work it out with her and have that conversation and go there, where a lot of the times, in growing up, there weren't those difficult conversations had. And it's just made such a difference in being able to deal with the issue in a productive way and cope with it in a more positive way, and actually be able to move on and let go of that hurt. Makes a big, big difference.
That's amazing. And that's so huge and such a good realization for you because, in my opinion, when we don't work on those things, they end up showing up again. For me, I am divorced and, my eldest is from my first marriage. And, I think it's very common that people that have become divorced possibly have a higher chance of getting divorced again. For me, I've learned the grass is not greener on the other side. And working on our stuff, and that can go for all relationships in our life or really anything that comes up for us, is that we really do need to put in the work. And like exactly what you were saying, because it will show up again, it will continue to show up again until you really dig deep and do that work. And journaling is a huge part of that, as you probably know. And journaling your thoughts, journaling why am I feeling a certain way, it really helps things to flow. It really helps get clarity. And when we get clarity, we're able to look at those things and work on what we need to heal, which is big.
Right. Yeah,
Hmm.
and since I have been following you, and I have noticed how you, your husband and your son's father, how you are able to coexist, and to me, that is just something that is so amazing because my parents are divorced, but they cannot coexist. My mom cannot be in the same room with my dad's wife. There's just, and that's just made life very difficult. And when I got married, my wedding was like in shambles because of their issues. And so I felt that, I had a lot of hurt in that. And being a child coming from a broken family, it was just nobody really knew how to navigate it since my parents were the very first people that ever got divorced in our whole family. And to this day, it's still kind of like touch and go, but it's getting a lot better. And so when I see families being able to coexist, it's just, to me, I'm like, as a child of a divorced family, I'm like, I wish my parents just learned to do that. And it would make my life a bit easier. And it's, I guess, those kinds of traumas for me, from the other side of being the child that, really hurt me when I got married and made sure that, like, I had to deal with all this stuff because I didn't want to put my child through what my parents put me through. And so for me, that was really important and a key driving force in my journey.
And that is just a huge kudos to you because there's huge benefit to us really changing how we were raised and what we know, so our kids can have a better future, can have a better life. It's consciously deciding that we're not going to continue going that way, we're not going to continue being that way. And, when we consciously decide that, it's huge because, I don't know if you've heard as well, when we do the healing work, we're healing our children. So from what I understand, we're healing 7 generations forward and 7 generations back as well, which is
Mm.
huge. It really is huge.
Yeah, and
Um,
yeah, and I totally resonate with that because I've noticed since I decided to make that change that, trying to work with my parents, my in-laws as well, they're still married, but they still, there's things that they could work on to heal from. And even my grandparents, it's just amazing that now all, a whole bunch of people around me are starting to want to heal themselves and try to
yes.
address those hurts and those traumas they experienced previously.
Totally. And, the journey inward is what I've decided to do a couple years ago. And, when you journey inward, you're looking at yourself. You're looking at everything that's happening within you because we can only control what happens within ourselves. We don't have control over anything else around us. And that goes back to your family too, because when you decide to look inward and when I decide to look inward, what we're doing is we're shining our light. We're shining our own light. And in turn, people see us changing and they themselves were changing the vibration of our whole entire household, including the whole entire world, really, when we decide to do the work, and it inspires other people to do the same. So, really the ripple effect is huge. And, I talk to a lot of people that do have challenges in their relationship, with their husbands. And it's, for me, I never asked Puna once to start this journey.
Mhm.
This was my own journey, and he decided to jump on when he saw the changes within me. And, that's a thing that I like to share with people too, is that, in your relationship, if you continue to do the work, you want to, I think that if you go to your husband or your partner and say, okay, well, you need to do this, you need to do that, it's challenging because they might not be ready for that. That might not be something that they're ready for, something that they understand yet. And I think that for us, it's just important to continue our own journey and for them to see the changes within us. And hopefully it will inspire them to make some changes in their life as well.
Yeah, and I am a complete advocate of not pressuring anybody to do anything. And I totally agree that, you know, you have to be ready in order to do it because you have to be in a place where, because at the beginning it's really hard, right? Because you have to relive those feelings and those thoughts and figure out, what is the other way you're going to go about this and heal from it. And you have to be ready for it. So, and yeah, and also same, I feel like we've had a very similar journey in at the beginning because my husband, he also, saw the changes and he wasn't on board and he wasn't, into looking into himself and seeing, all the, even though I saw all the reasons why he was acting in certain ways or saying certain things and I knew where it was coming from, I couldn't tell him because he couldn't understand that. But once he started his own journey, he really did see the cycle that was repeating for himself and how he can heal from it and move forward. And I think that, for the both of us, our daughter has been our biggest driving force of really pushing us to go there and go deeper and be better, because we didn't want her to pick up on things that we picked up on when we were kids and continue to do as adults now. Yeah. So,
So good.
yeah. And thank you for sharing that. That was just, I've had lots of conversations with friends also that were having some trouble and they've, all said, well, why can't my partner do this or do that? And it's just, and I've always said, you can't make them understand that. They will understand it on their own, in their own time, when they're ready.
Yeah, and you know what? Like, it's not so black and white. Every relationship is different. Every relationship has a different set of challenges. There is a difference between somebody that's not ready to work on their stuff and, potentially something very toxic, right? So, everybody has their own journey, and really everybody has to decide what the best way to proceed is for them. But, I think the first most important step, and everything else will fall into place, is looking inward. That for me is the first thing. And continuing your journey inward, and whatever happens from that is really meant to happen, but aligning ourselves first is definitely the way to go.
Yes. So, what got you started on your journey for your self improvement journey?
It was actually, I have to thank my mom because my mom took these life courses many years ago. Must be probably more than 30 years ago. She took these life courses.
Wow.
And, it was a course that, she wanted us to take for a really long time. And when we got old enough, she paid for me to go, my brother to go, our exes at the time to go. My dad went. So she sent all of us to go. And it was really, I think that was the catalyst, and that is what started really me looking at myself and understanding what really makes me tick. An interesting thing that they talk about in the course is driving needs. So, what do we need? Basically, what would you walk over broken glass for? And, there could be things like connection, excitement, adventure, things like that, and really digging deep and figuring out what are the things that I need in my life, and I can meet it constructively or I can meet it destructively, and learning about that. And that was also a time when I realized the relationship that I was in was not the relationship I was meant to have forever. And at that time my son was about a year old, and it was a very difficult time because I had made a huge decision to end a relationship that everybody thought was going well. I was not happy. I had a lot of stuff going on in my life to the point where I wasn't being myself anymore. I
Mhm.
would go and do all these crazy things. I was trying to, it was just a very, very, very extreme time for me. And, as time went on, I decided to look more into myself and how to improve myself. And I would read books and, try to take courses. But it was only until when we mentioned earlier, I looked inward about 2 years ago when I was lying in bed, and with my youngest son Kainoa, and something just popped into my head, and it was like, you need to start looking inward. And it was so clear, and I was like, you know what? Everything else around me is just everything else around me. What I need to master and align myself is everything inside myself. And so that's really when I started. And like anything in my life, as soon as I decide something in my mind, um, everything starts happening, right? And for me, that's how I manifested, loving myself, how I manifested the life that I have now and doing the work that I needed to do to get where I am. And that's all part of the journey where, I ended up attracting amazing healers into my life. I'm Reiki level 2 certified. I'm studying a course called the Emotion Code right now about healing trapped emotions. Really, the universe is wonderful and connects me with the people that I need to be connected to. So that's been part of my journey, and it has been a huge blessing to me. It's been a huge blessing to my family. And Aloha Kai has been a huge blessing too, because, it's a platform that allows me to share with people. And it's not just about, for me, the clothing, the hats, those are the things that I offer, but it allows me also to share my journey, which is just so close to my heart. And that's how I met you too, right?
Right.
So it's really beautiful how the universe works, and it's really beautiful how things come about. And it's important to stay open to what the universe might have for you, because it's not going to be maybe in the package that we expect it to be. And that is what I love about this life, because so many things can come to you, and if you're expecting it to be exactly a certain way, you might not see it, right? So just being open is another wonderful thing.
Yeah, and I think that that's a really great point. And, the package that I had was my daughter, and I didn't expect that. You expect it to be a wonderful time, you have a child and you're happy and everything. And and of course there's the postpartum hormones, and all that. But after I had my daughter, I just felt, this like urge of emotions and just this feeling of, sadness, because I just thought, here's this little baby in front of me, and like, am I going to ruin her? And am I going to put all this trauma on her like my parents did? And, and it became a time for me where I was really stressed out and I was overwhelmed. And, Mama Bear was there because I just didn't want anybody to say anything to her or look at her a certain way or do anything. And my husband tells me that I call him Mama Bear, but I'm just trying to find a really cute name for what I was like at that time. and, but and I just realized after getting through that period that that was the energy that I've been waiting for, that message that I've been waiting for of how to change my life and how to move forward, because I've been looking for, that package for as long as I, can remember. From the time I was 8 when my parents got divorced, I kept thinking, what is there? What can I do to be better? Is there something out there that I can pursue? And, and I just didn't expect it to come in the form of my daughter. So I completely understand what you're saying, and just listening to and following it and seeing, where it takes you, I think is very important, because I had a different plan for my maternity leave and it totally changed. And things, I didn't expect to have a podcast before I was going back to work. I expected to, be relaxing on a beach in Italy before I went back to work. That was my plan for my mat leave. So the universe definitely has a different plan, and we have to be ready to follow it.
Definitely, definitely. There's so many blessings, especially at this time. And I think that this time is really a good time for people to take the work to look inward. And I know it's so daunting for people because they don't know where to start. And I think we've been there where life is just hectic. We're so busy. We can barely find time to take a shower, let alone wake up at 5 o'clock to like burn some candles and read or journal or have a tea. I think that that seems really out of reach for a lot of people. But just starting small, baby steps, really baby steps, and anything. And it could be, okay, what is something that brings you joy? Do that today. It could be something so simple. Like I've been coloring lately, I've been painting, I've been making things, and it could be something simple. It doesn't have to take long, but what is something that you enjoy doing that you haven't maybe done for a while? And,
Right.
sparking that joy will it will lead you to want to do more. It'll lead you to feeling better. It'll lead you to, okay, you know what? I'm going to sleep a little bit earlier today. I'm going to wake up a little bit earlier tomorrow so I can have a little bit of time to do this thing that I want to do because I love to do it.
Right.
So finding the joy that we maybe haven't done for a long time. It could be dancing even, it could be laughing. It could be doing something silly, really. It could be anything.
Yeah, and so that actually takes me into my next question of how did you start, and what tips and advice do you have for someone just starting their journey? And I know you shared a bit about that already right now, but how did you start?
One of the things I found very helpful to me, and it's something so simple, and people do talk about how once you find something that works, it's great because you can replicate that for other areas in your life.
Mm.
And this one thing was so simple. I just printed out a Microsoft Word calendar for the month. At the bottom, I wrote the things that I wanted to do that helped me feel better, and it would be stuff like drink 8 glasses of water, stretch, do 10 minutes of yoga, eat intuitively, journal, anything really. Everybody's list is going to be different. But I made a list underneath the calendar, and on the calendar every day I would aim to do maybe 2 of those things. So I write down, okay, today I drank 8 glasses of water, woohoo. And every day I would write the things that I would do, but I would have it up on the wall so I could see it, because I'm a visual person. I'm going to forget the things I want to do if I'm not going to write it down.
Mhm.
So I pasted it on my wall, and that's how I really got doing. And one of the things too was wake up earlier. So that's what I would write down. And then every day I would write the 2 or 3 things that I was able to accomplish. And that's how I continued on. And, when you can do something for 30 days straight, it really helps. It's a good foundation, right? So that was a very good way for me to get more aligned in doing the things that I felt would help me.
Yeah, and I think that's a really good point. I still, carry a planner, and I sit down every Sunday night and I plan out my week, because like you said, if I don't write it out, I'm not going to do it. and I'll just kind of go through the motions of the day and not have a plan for the day. But I also just love highlighting when I finish something. That just brings me so much joy and so much satisfaction,
Yes,
you know,
totally.
I actually, you know, in the last couple of years while I was working, I would sit down, you know, at work when I didn't want to do what I was supposed to be doing. And I would write notes to myself, you know, like a goal. And I would say, these are all my goals. And here's when I plan to achieve them. Or this is how I'm feeling today. And I had a little book, and I just unpacked my work stuff yesterday, and I found that book and I started going through it. And it was like 3 or 4 years of just not being happy, writing all these notes. And as I was going through it, and I was starting to think that, I do feel these now, you know, these goals, I've achieved them. And I just love being able to go back, and to look through that journal and just seeing, you know, where I've come and how far I've come from when I was in that place. It just
Totally.
brings me lots of happiness. So a little bit specifically about journaling. How often do
Mhm.
you journal? Do you try to journal every day or as needed? And what is your favorite type of journaling?
So I am part of a group called The Magic, and that's The Magic by Rhonda Burns, and it's a gratitude book. It's 28 days of gratitude, and there's different exercises every day. So for me, I just finished it last month, and I'm continuing to do the 10 things I'm grateful for every day in my journal because it's a really, really good way to start the day. Because right now, especially, it's very important for us to count our blessings. It's a challenging time. There's so much uncertainty in the world, but we really here, especially where we live, we have so many blessings and so many things that, you know, other people around the world don't have. And so every morning I will count my blessings. So it'll be 10 things I'm grateful for. And I write the 10 things I'm grateful for plus why I'm grateful for them. People often write down what they're grateful for, but writing why you're grateful for it really, really, you feel way more gratitude when you write why. So that's part of the exercises that we do, and I'm doing that every single day. And with me journaling, it depends on how I feel. So every day when I wake up, it's really dependent on how I feel. The 10 things is something I do every single day. The journaling when I wake up, depending on, you know, the vibe that I feel or the intuitive hits and messages that I get. Sometimes I'll wake up with so many ideas and so many things popping into my mind, and then I have no choice but I have to journal. I just have to journal because, you know, the things that are coming to my head, I feel like they are messages and I need to write them down and I need to record them and have them, whether I look at them now or I look at them later. It's important for me to have those written down. Other times, you know, I might feel like, okay, I'm going to do something else today. Or, you know, if I choose to, I'm going to pull an oracle card and I'm going to meditate on that. And then if something comes up, I'll journal on that as well. So really, it's probably every day for the gratitude and at least every other day for actual journaling. And even sometimes in the evening, if I have a chance and I want to watch the sunset and Puna's watching the kids and they're doing their own thing, I'll just lay out my yoga mat on the deck and I'll bring my journal with me. And if anything comes up, I'll write it. So for me, it's, you know, when I get thoughts or if something comes up, then I'll write it. I also journal when there's something that I need to work on. Right now, it's me working on my relationship with food. You know, being in quarantine, I am eating all the things. You know, I am snacking like crazy. My mom is making yummy food because we live together. And, you know, we used to eat out every day at least once. So it would be skip the dishes, or my husband and I would go out for lunch because we work, you know, for my family company. We're flexible. We can head out whenever we like. And, you know, having my mom cook dinner for us and having food all the time, it's so yummy, which is wonderful. But, you know, I'm a snacker. I'm also a stress eater. So, you know, when I'm eating, I need to ask myself, well, why are you turning to food? Are you bored? Is there something that you need to look at something else to fill this void that you're having, or this, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
So that is also what I've been journaling on. You know, how can I heal my relationship with food and being open to the messages that I'm getting? So really, Like anything I do, it's not so black and white. It's really how I feel. But, in the beginning, when I first started journaling, it was an important part. And I would, I would set aside time to journal, because now, I've been doing it for some time. I know intuitively when it's a good time for me to journal, when I have things to journal, and how I should journal. But when I first started, I spent a lot of time free writing. So really just literally having my journal, clearing my mind. A big part of it too is grounding myself. So sometimes I'll just ground by Googling a guided grounding meditation on YouTube, and I'll do that for 10 minutes. I have a few that I do. And then also for myself, I'll just do my own guided grounding meditation to clear my head. And then I will just write whatever anything that comes to my head. It could be, oh, I want to buy some ketchup today, and then like literally anything, and then stuff will start flowing. So it doesn't have to be so deep, but once you start writing the things, it stuff starts coming out, ideas start coming out, things that you didn't think were, for me, things I didn't think actually came from the way it was written is not the way I would write things. So really just going and allowing myself to journal in a way that could connect me.
Yeah, and I feel that when you talk about how you feel and in doing, what serves you best at that time, I think that's key, because even for myself, I've, since I've been on this journey, I also have a problem with food for myself, because I eat whenever I'm stressed out, when I'm bored, when I don't know what else to do. I just eat, and it's always chocolate and ice cream, and those
Those are yummy things.
they're very yummy, but they don't do me well. And so, and because of the sugar, and because my body reacts to sugar and dairy, I wake up the next day feeling foggier, not feeling as productive, just feeling run down. And so, since I've been paying attention to my body and what I eat and how I feel the next day, I've been able to identify certain things that, if I want more mental clarity tomorrow, that I avoid these things today. And being mindful of that, and
Totally.
I am still doing a 90-day fitness challenge, and they just postponed it. And that day that they postponed it, I went and bought a 2-liter bucket of ice cream and I started eating it. So I don't know if the trainers are going to hear this, but hopefully they don't know about that. But it made me feel so good, because in that moment I felt that, I've worked so hard and I deserve it. So
Yeah, I totally get that. And I like to ask myself, okay, why am I doing this thing? For example, I haven't weighed myself in, I don't know, probably like 6 months at least. And I used to weigh myself very often. So now it's to the point where I have to ask myself, am I not weighing myself because I don't want to have the realization of how much weight I gained? Or, before I wasn't weighing myself because it was more, okay, I'm accepting myself as I am. I'm eating better. I'm doing these things, but now I'm in a different place. Now it's like, okay, I'm not weighing myself because I don't want to see that I actually gained maybe 15 pounds, right? So it's really being aware, because every moment things are changing, and just really asking yourself, okay, why am I doing this? Why am I not doing this? Do I actually need the sleep? Is that why I'm sleeping in? Or is it because I just don't feel like getting up because I'm lazy today? Really asking yourself, and as time goes on, you'll understand, okay, you'll become more intuitive, and you'll realize that, okay, you know what, maybe I am lazy, maybe I do need to get my butt up. So really being more in tune with yourself, to ask yourself, because it's very easy for me to be like, yeah, you know what, I'm not going to get up today because I'm tired, but really I'm not actually tired. I've had plenty of sleep, but I'm just not feeling like getting my butt up.
yeah.
So yeah.
And yeah, and that's definitely how I feel every morning. I set my alarm for 5 a.m. every morning for the past 3 months. It's been set at 5 a.m. And all I do is I get up and I turn it off and I go back to sleep, and I'm up. I can get up, I feel awake, but I just want to keep sleeping because that's not what's normal to me.
That's pretty amazing that you actually got out of bed.
Yeah, because we actually charge our phones outside of our rooms, because we've been doing that for the last 4 years, and it's made a difference. I've noticed, when I wake up in the morning, I feel less tired, and I feel more recharged for the day. So we do.
4 years, that's really good.
Yeah, and my husband's the one controlling that part of it, because for me, I'd be like, no, get it. I want it right next to my nightstand. I don't want to get up and turn off my alarm, but he's the one that's really pushing it. And he's like, no, it always goes outside. And it's that in itself is an experience, because being able to just plug your phone in and leave it away from you and walk away, knowing that you can't hear notifications, you can't hear any phone calls, for me, that took me a little bit of time, because I always was worried that I was going to get an emergency call for somebody in my family or my friends. And being able to, leave my phone out and knowing that I might not hear that call, for me, that took a lot of courage and a lot of effort and self-control. And I think my husband saw that, which is why he really, really encouraged me to keep my phone outside, because he started noticing that, I lived with my mom and my sister before getting married. And when I got married and moved out, he's like, you're always worried about them. And I was like, yeah, because I'm not there. I'm not there to be with them. And if something happened, I'm not there, and they'll have to call me, and I need to be ready for it. And, and he encouraged me, to, let it go. Like, they're okay. They're going to be okay. And if anything happens, they will let you know, but there's nothing you can do about it while you're sleeping, and so that's been a journey on its own, to allow me to just heal, because that also, when I dig deep, I was like, there's some traumas there. Like, I've always been protective of my mom and making sure that she's okay. And if I can't be there with her, then I, was becoming more anxious, and
Yeah.
letting that feeling take over my day. So that
Yeah.
happened.
Puna, he's the one that leaves his phone outside of the room. And it's so good because, then you end up not looking at your phone, checking your messages when you wake up. That's not the first thing that you're doing, lying in bed and playing with your phone with the light so bright in a dark room. For me, I charge it, but we're playing some Zen music at bedtime. We'll play it all night long. But I think it is very, very good to have your phone outside of the room, because we
Yeah.
spend so much time connected to our phones. It's
Mm-hmm.
really, it's like an attachment of us pretty much.
Yeah.
So having it away from us is really a good way to be.
So you did touch on the community of people doing the work through the magic book by Rhonda
Hmm.
Byrne, and the gratitude journaling. So how did you start that, and is it still going on? And if people wanted to join, how can they do that?
So it happened really organically, actually. So this is the month I just finished was the third time I had completely finished the book, and it had made such a huge impact on my life. It's also the reason why I started Aloha Kai. It was doing this book that helped me start Aloha Kai, and I asked my two girlfriends if they wanted to do it as well. And, prior to this, when I first finished it, I had sent this book to a number of people. I would just ship it to their house and be like, you know what, you need to do this book. Of course, it wasn't the time for a lot of people, so they didn't do it, but they kept it. And I asked my two girlfriends and they said, okay, we'll do it. And we posted about it and we shared about it, and people wanted to join as well. So we had, I think it was probably almost 40 people hop on and order the book. And we started a couple Instagram groups where, we would hold each other accountable and support each other. And it was just so beautiful to see all these people really wanting to do this book and sharing in the group things that people are grateful for, sharing in the group. We have one person actually a couple people that are cancer thrivers, and another person who had a heart attack when they were young. And, when we got to the gratitude exercise about health, they were really talking about how grateful they are for their health now. And it's something that many of us take for granted because we have good health. And when that's taken away from us is really when we realize how important that was. And having people share these things and supporting each other was so beautiful. And the group we do have some people that are still doing it for the month of April. I myself, I'm still doing the 10 things every day that I'm grateful for. Other people have started again April 1st, or the people that might not have finished it in March. And there's some people that are at different points, but the purpose of the group is to support each other. And if anybody wants to join, they're welcome to message me on Instagram under Aloha Kai Apparel. that's my main way to communicate with people is through my Instagram. So feel free to direct message me and I will pop you into a group and I'll share about the book if you'd like. But yeah, I was amazed by how many people wanted to actually be part of it. And the timing was just so perfect because we started March 1st and it was right before really all of us started to quarantine. All of us started to self-isolate. So,
Mm-hmm.
in the group, everybody was like, oh my gosh, the timing of this was just so perfect because this is really the time where we need to count our blessings because
Mm-hmm.
things are tough. We don't have the things that we are not around the people that we're usually around. There's many people that have lost their jobs, but there's a silver lining really to everything. It's just being able to dig deep and figuring out what that is, and the gratitude book helps with that. So it has been a huge blessing, and I'm so thankful that people wanted to join in and be part of it because it helped me myself stay on continuing to do the book, because I knew that there's a lot of other people that were part of it as well. And I'm like, you know what, I have to stay on this. I have to continue to do the exercises. And now it's just like, okay, I have to continue the 10 things I'm grateful for every day because I need to. I really need to. So it was good. It was a benefit to all of us and for me too. At this time, I think a lot of people are watching Netflix. They're sleeping later. They're getting out of their
Right.
routines. And Puna even will be like, "Hey, let's watch a show when the kids are in bed." I'm like, I gotta go to bed. I gotta go to bed. We can watch something like before dinner or earlier, but I need to go to bed because that's just how important my routine is. Because it is very easy for me to get out of it as soon as I start sleeping late, which is already like when we started self isolating. It was 3 days of sleeping later. I'm like, okay, whoa, I can't be sleeping at 10. 10 is late for me. It's too late, right? So, getting back on track. But yes, and gratitude really is something that attracts magic into our lives. And that's why I always like to share the magic book because it really did transform my life. And it really has brought amazing things to my life. And every time I do it, um, beautiful things happen, wonderful things happen. So that's why I like to share that book because it's so, so good.
I'll have to see if I can get it off Chapters. And so for anyone that wants to pick up that book, Chapters is a great option. And I'll have a link to it on our blog as well as Jackie's information also on our blog so you can connect with her. Is there anything else that you would like to share with us, Jackie?
I just want to say thank you so much for having me. It was so much fun. And, this is a subject that I love to talk about. As you probably can tell, I have lots to share. So, anybody that's listening, thank you so much. And if you have any questions, feel free to message me too, because I love to connect. That is also one of my driving needs, connection with people. So feel free to message me if you have any questions or anything around this.
And thank you for joining us. And for those that don't know, I just messaged Jackie from our Instagram. We had talked a couple of times before when I was inquiring about her crystals or her meditation routine. But for the most part, it was just a cold ask. And she was so willing and excited to be on here. So I was so grateful for that. So thank you so much for joining us. And I'm sure we're going to have you back to talk about another part of your life or just continue this conversation because it's just been so great.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much for listening to the end of this episode. All of the information from this episode, as well as our show notes and blog content, can be found at our website, howdidyoulerntodothat.com. And please subscribe to our YouTube and to this podcast and like and share us on all our social media accounts and get the word out so we can inspire everybody around you. Or if there's anybody that's doing anything that's interesting to you and you would like to learn how they learn to do that, please send me an email or send me a note on any of our social media accounts and I will be in touch to see if we can get them on the show. Thank you so much again. And please remember that investing in yourself has the ability to catalyze your life from ordinary to extraordinary, and all you need is yourself and your mind to get started. All right. We'll see you next week. Bye.